If other systems feel like too many spreadsheets, too many rules, too many steps, you're definitely not alone. Most productivity tools are just not built for our ADHD brains. And in today's video, I really want to talk about how I exactly run a business as a neurodivergent entrepreneur and how I use xTiles to just organize myself, to organize my clients, to make work easier, especially on the days where my brain just says, nope, we can't do it. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Yanina, cognitive psychologist and ADHD coach, and I believe every ADHD brain is different, which means every workflow should be as well. So whatever tools you're using, whether it's boards, planners, AI helpers, they need to actually support how your brain works and not require you to constantly fight against your own brain and how you just work. So here's the thing, running a business with ADHD isn't just about managing a to-do list, it's about juggling multiple roles all at once. For me, it's being a coach, content creator, admin, social media manager, client communicator, while also managing my own executive functioning challenges as an ADHDer. So you really need to keep in mind what helps your ADHD brain thrive. And generally, our ADHD brains thrive on flexibility because for me, my focus and energy levels, they change every single day. So some days I'm that productivity tornado and other days I just want to scroll on Instagram. It's also helpful for me to have visual reminders and visual organization tools because I just need to see what's important or my brain just forgets it exists altogether. It's also important to keep in mind quick dopamine wins. So the little hits of, yes, I did something, let's keep myself moving. That's also super important. And usually most traditional systems, they're built for people who can follow kind of a rigid plan, who have an important spaced nervous system, and they can just go throughout their day without losing steam altogether. And usually what happens for us ADHDers, and again for myself, is that this usually leads to planner guilt. I kind of started that shame struggle because I started to ghost my planner for a week and then I feel bad altogether and I don't really want to do anything anymore. And that's why it's so important to have something that is built for actually you and your brain and not your idealized future you who magically never forgets anything or never ghosts anything. If you've been following me for a while, you probably already know I love xTiles. It's like my external brain, my business command center board. In xTiles is where I run everything. No tabs, no piles of sticky notes, no random scraps of paper in my back. And for me, how I created my xTile planner is generally 5 different sections. So I have my weekly goals here in my planner where you can see just my week and then everything I kind of roughly want to accomplish on a weekly basis. And then also you can see here just my overall weekly goals that I want to prioritize and make sure I focus on. And I also make sure that it's not too overwhelming and that I don't have like 10,000 things on my weekly goals list because I know that's not realistic. Of course, it also took me some time to just learn that for myself, but finally I'm here where I can actually set more realistic weekly goals. Then I also have my client dashboard where I just have all the action plans, session notes, and resources for all my clients. And then I also have my notes and follow-up to make sure that I'm keeping track of everything, all my projects that I'm working on. I also have a section for new project ideas that I could put on here. And like you can see, you can really individualize it. Once again, you can change the color or you added like a nice art picture here just to inspire me because that's kind of what I kind of dream to or aspire to for my future projects. And the AI feature can also be super helpful here in xTiles because I can use the AI feature to help me to either create my to-do list, improve my to-do list, or kind of my action plan, which has been super helpful as well. And I love it because it's kind of like having your personal assistant that can build and support your workspace or your tasks and to-dos without having to actually really outsource, and you can just quickly access it. If you have ADHD, you probably also have experienced these days where you just cannot motivate yourself no matter how hard you want to try or how motivated you were the day before. Sometimes even on days when you are super motivated, the next day can be really hard to get motivated again or have the energy. So I also have a pivot list on xTiles, which I love. Absolutely. Because here on this pivot list, firstly, if you know Friends, you're totally familiar with this picture that I inserted. But here I also have, like, on days that I'm not motivated, what are some things that I could integrate? So I sat down, like, I will use my time timer. I could put on my focus playlist, could put on a current podcast that I totally love, make myself a tea, a nice drink. Or I also have tasks that I could pivot to. Like if I'm doing some work and it's been really hard for me to focus, I could always pivot to maybe a more lighter admin task or a household task, grocery list, reading a new research paper, or prepping a post on Canva. And then also just some other like pictures that I like, and I change them around every now and then just to make it like new and exciting again. But I'm loving this because sometimes you do know that there are other things that you could be doing or pivoting to, or you could be including. But a lot of times when we're not feeling well, it's so hard to actually think about them. So I always make sure I have them down in a list, and I also change that list around every other time. Again, you could also use AI again for any support here to optimize the list or get some new ideas, which I absolutely love doing as well. Another thing that I love to do is using a timer, and specifically a visual timer, and then integrating the Pomodoro technique. That's generally where you set your timer for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break, and then you work for another 25 minutes, and then you could take a longer break, and you kind of repeat that cycle as many times as you want. And I love using these visual timers because it will firstly give me some motivation, because I can see, okay, now I'm actually working on it. I have 25 minutes or however long you want to set the timer. And then you are also seeing that time is actually passing, which can sometimes be a very abstract concept for us ADHDers. Another thing that I made sure I integrated was setting realistic deadlines, because in my old system, I usually always set unrealistic deadlines. Like I'll write this huge proposal in the afternoon, and of course I didn't accomplish that, and then the guilt set in and I just felt just bad about myself and not motivated anymore. So now I make sure I actually set realistic deadlines and I break tasks down. And that also helps me to get a better understanding of how long does it actually take me to do a task, how many steps are actually included. So for example, instead of saying I will finish the client course, I will have it like write lesson 1 outline, record lesson 1, I color code urgent tasks, and my eye also goes straight to them if I use color. And also if I'm working together with other people, I always ask them just for a due date, because that just helps me to create even more accountability. Another thing that I absolutely love doing is using body doubling as a form of accountability. And body doubling is a form of creating accountability through working with people either in the room, so in person, or also just over Zoom, where you all meet together on Zoom and everyone works on their own individual tasks, but just having people around in the work mode creates a form of accountability. When I was at university and doing my PhD, I would also go to a library, and that would create some form of accountability, or certain coffee shops where I know people would always work and where it's fairly quiet. So I love doing that, and I think that's what got me through university and my PhD without an ADHD diagnosis back then and having any form of treatment and support for my ADHD. I also do body doubling calls with my group coaching groups, where everyone just hops into the Zoom call, and at the start everyone shares what they're going to work on, and then at the end of the call everyone shares how far they've gotten, or we talk about where we might have gotten stuck and what we could do either better next time, or what we could include in that. It's also just a very supportive atmosphere. So if you tried other planners or tools and they just felt like they weren't built for your ADHD brain, xTiles might be such a great addition to your life. And it's really my ADHD-friendly business hub, my client's resource library, and my motivator and just my all-in-all package helpful resource. If you want to try xTiles for free, you can use the link below to test it out for 2 weeks. And thank you so much, xTiles, for sponsoring this week's video. I absolutely always love working with xTiles. It's been such a helpful tool for my business and just in general for, I think, any ADHD or anyone who wants to just plan a bit more creatively and who wants to have an option to move things around and create all the different lists that could support you in your business endeavors or in your work or in your awesome projects that you're currently working on. Thank you so much for watching this week's video, and I will see you all next week in the next video. Bye!